So I was beginning the transplant process with some of my plants here. I've got a bunch of English lavender, some rosemary, and some basil that I put up into these little pots. And I thought it'd be a good time to talk about why I really like these coconut cork pots for a transplanting type of pot. And they are really kind of a cool product. I'll put a link in the comments, or sorry, the description to them if you want to get them. But I've used these for a very long time, and there's a lot of really good reasons to use a core pot like this. So there's a lot of reasons why you might want to try something like this, these core pots. Number one, they do a very good job of holding the soil and holding the plant and allowing the whole root area to dry out as needed. So you don't have to worry about getting waterlogged or holding too much water. What I like to do is I will put them in these 10-20 flats and I'll bottom water, because all you have to do is create a little spot where you can pour water into the tray. Put in about 3/4 of an inch of water and it will water the entire tray. Everything in here will absorb the water up through the soil and through the sides of the pot. So it's a really convenient way to water where you're not having to go over top of all your plants while you're trying to grow them and water them. And that's especially handy if you're growing still under grow lights, where you have to pull the whole tray off and then put it back on, as opposed to maybe just coming over here to the side with your water jug. So I like it for that reason. The other thing I like about it is they are a good replacement for peat pots. So there's a lot of problems with peat being used in the industry and damaging peat bogs. So this, being a waste product from the coconut industry, is not utilizing any of that peat, and it's just taking something that could have been a waste product and turning it into something very useful. So that's something that I think is really cool. For root development, this does not impede the plants at all. It is not a solid surface, even though it may look like it from the camera. There, if you look up really close to it, you can kind of see light through it, and there's very good opportunities for those roots to come out along the side areas. In this angle, you can even see through the bottom of the pot. And that's a good thing, and it can be a bad thing too, because it doesn't keep them contained necessarily. If you have your pots too close together and they're touching, you'll get roots from one going into the other pot. So you do have to watch out for that. But if you usually keep your roots or your pots just slightly separated from each other, it's usually not that big of a deal to just gently pull them apart if needed. Now, another thing I like about them is it makes it very easy to step up the size pot. So let's say I'm going with one of these basil plants here, and it's gotten real big and the roots are coming out the bottom. And what I'm wanting to do is upsize it into a larger container, even if it's more of a decorative container. This is just a little plastic pot from an old nursery container. But basically you just fill it up with the soil and you put your pot in, fill up around the pot with soil, and you're planted. So it's really convenient. Several years ago, I was selling plants at farmers markets, and this is how I would sell them, in these kind of pots. And what was great about that is when I had a new gardener coming by, I could make it very easy for them to get started successfully with their plant. They don't have to worry about damaging the roots when they're planting, and it just really increases their chances of success by planting in a pot like this that's biodegradable. Now, as far as it's being biodegradable, usually within about the second year of having one of these planted in the garden, I'll find little bits and pieces of it in different places. And I'll usually just take that, throw it in the compost bin, or toss it in the garden somewhere where a bird can get it and use it for a nest. But the fact that they're completely biodegradable, I think is really, really cool. Now, my recommendation is, if you are a longtime gardener, planning on gardening for a long time, get these in bulk when you buy them. Keep them dry, put them in a garage, in a tote somewhere, and they will last you a long time. These I've had around for well over 10 years. I don't even know exactly when I bought them, but I was using them for that farmer's market nursery business, and I've just kept them, and I kept using them, and I've used them pretty much every year since then for my own personal needs, because I'm not doing that business anymore. But it was a really good way to have something very easy to transition from the seedling stage direct into the garden. As far as size goes, you've got types like this, which are a 3-inch round pot. You also have types that are a 4-inch square, and you've got a lot of other different options. I've even used like a 6-pack style core thing. I don't like those as much because you actually have to cut them apart with scissors in order to get them separated from the individual plants. So I definitely prefer using like the 3-inch round ones or the 4-inch square pots. The 4-inch square ones fit perfectly into a 10 by 20 flat. The 3 inches that I've got here, they leave some space, which might be great if you're concerned about like the roots kind of moving into each other, which they do on the 4-inch size, but they are also a lot more loose here, which can lead to maybe a little pot tipping over every now and then. So you just have to be a little bit more careful with them. But they do a really good job of containing the soil, growing the plant, being able to easily transplant the plant into the garden, or upsizing it if you're just going through an upsizing process and moving it up to the next one. In the past, what I've done with my tomatoes is I'll put them in a pot like that and then upsize the tomatoes. Once they're starting to grow some roots out here, I can put this down in the bottom of the pot and then fill up along the stem to grow extra roots and stuff. And that seems to work really well. So now that I've got my basil, rosemary, and lavender all transplanted into their new Coir pots, I'm going to put them back under the lights and give them a couple more weeks before I start to transition them outdoors. And what's great about these though is when I do decide to put them outside, I can just plant them directly in the garden. I don't have to go up another step or anything. These will be perfectly fine in these pots until I'm ready to put them outside in the garden. So I hope this was useful to you. If it was, hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll catch you next time on Growing the Home Garden. Thanks for watching.